Hello, welcome to Scrapland with Regina. I was asked a question today about my completing the 52 project recipes, how I did it. While I have a system for creating these layouts, if I had to give one piece of advice, it would be take the photos away and see the beautiful base of the page you have and see what photos you have that you would like to place on the base of that page. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a project recipe and demonstrate my process for making it. So the one I've chosen is from National Scrapbook Day 2023. Now, project recipes come with most bundles, or a project booklet, or a project guidebook, or a project playbook. Even I can't keep all of that straight, but it has to do with the number of layouts you make from that set of instructions. Most project recipes have instructions for making one or two layouts because this is the special occasion. This project recipe will be two-page spread, so you'll get 4 out of this. So having these project recipes and the cutting guides really speeds up scrapbooking for me. So my first step is going to be deciding what I need to make this project recipe. And it calls for 4 background pieces of paper. So you need 2 designer papers for your base for this one, and basically 2 foundation pages. One is a designer paper, one is cardstock. For this, you get to choose whatever foundation page you want. That's step 1. Step 2 is going to be looking at the need for the other pages. This needs 4 sheets of paper, one of which was a solid cardstock. The thing I look out for is how much of the papers will be used for mats. In some project recipes, a whole sheet of paper or cardstock will be mats, and I'm not going to cut the mats, and the reason is because I do not know what photos I'm going to use at this point in time. So because I don't know what photos I'm going to use, there's no need to cut the mats, because the highest probability will be my photos will not be the same size as the project recipe demonstrates. So my first task is pick the 4 designer papers. They could come from the same collection or from different collections. The second way that I can look at this recipe is by looking at the type and number of photos that it calls for. Let's look at the photos on this layout. It has 2 vertical portrait size 4x6 photos and a 4x4 on your left side. On the right, it has horizontal 6x4, another 4x4, and then 3 3x3 photos. I already know that I rarely ever have 3x3 photos. So the first step I'm going to take, because I know I won't use 3x3 photos, is to see how tall is piece A. Piece A is 4 inches by 10 inches. So I need to see if I have a photo that is smaller than 4 inches, but it doesn't have to necessarily be 3 inches. It may be 3.5 inches. So I'm going to now go look into my photos to see what I can come up with that would give me 2 vertical 4x6 photos, a possible 4x4 photo, a horizontal 6x4 photo, a possible 4x4 photo, and then a photo or two or three that could fit into this space, which is 4 inches tall and 10 inches wide. So by examining what photos would fit in the spaces that are designated for photos is the main ingredient. Look at what they have, look for what you have, and say, well, my photos fit in that space. And if it does not, then see what flexibility you have. Can you cut the paper a different size? Or can you find photos that are a different size? Okay, I found photos to make spread number 1. It calls for 2 vertical 4x6s and a 4x4. But what I found was 3 horizontal photos and 1 vertical. So what I plan to do is to come up with a layout design, something like this, where I would put, this would be this 4x6, and I will cut these 2 down, and they're not going to even be 4x4 because the pictures already have a frame around them. They look to be about 3.5 by 5 inches. So they're going to probably come over the edge of this 4-inch strip right here. And I am perfectly fine with that. For the right-hand side, my plan is to cut this photo down to 4x4. Cut this down to about 3 inches by 5, and then keep this as a 4x6. And so I will still have probably 4x4, 6x4, but this one is going to just be a single 3 to 3.5 inch by 6 inch photo. And I'm okay with that. So this illustrates my first and my biggest point, is that you don't have to have photos that are exactly like the project recipe. So once we make our naked project recipe and lay our photos on top of that, then you'll see that project recipes are a wonderful way to speed up scrapbooking. So the reason I picked the photos first is because they will help in choosing the papers. Okay, we've completed one of the most time-consuming segments of this project, which is choosing the paper. I've chosen papers from Summer Nights and Full of Wonder. I chose this Island Waters color. I've chosen this beautiful navy and this tangerine to be the background pages. So the tangerine will be the background. The Island Waters will cut A and G, and pieces D and E will be cut from the navy. So here's our next adaptation. Pieces A and G are cut from designer papers 1 and 3 in the project recipe. But looking at them, I realized that I can cut piece A and G from 1 sheet of paper, because piece F from the project recipe is actually going to go on the second spread. I don't need it for this one layout, and so I'm going to kind of reverse piece F from piece B and C for this second layout, which I'll come to when I make that layout. The other thing I'm going to ignore for now is leaving space for these circles. So we've chosen our pictures. And we've chosen our papers, and we've chosen the adaptations we're going to make to our photos and to our papers. And so now the real fun starts. We will begin cutting. So we're going to start with cutting from designer paper 2 first, which are two 5-inch by 12-inch strips. And this leaves room for punching circles if we choose to do so. Next, we're going to cut pieces A and G, but instead of from two different papers, I'm going to cut both A and G from this paper. Notice that A is going to be rotated. So you want a paper that can be rotated and it still looks fine, whether it's oriented this way or that way. I'm going to cut 10 inches first, which will give me this 2-inch strip. It's 12. So 10 inches, cutting away 2 inches. Next, I'm going to cut the height of this, which is 10 1/2 inches. And now I'm going to cut 4 inches. I'll cut 6, leaving 4. So now I have a 4 by 10 and a half. No, 6 by 10. I cut this wrong. Guess what? It doesn't matter. So let's put what we have together. The photo configuration doesn't matter at all. This is the configuration that the project recipe has for photos. But the whole point is to show you can make any arrangement of photos that you like that work for you. So we can contrast this by showing you. I put a photo here. Notice the size is different. You don't have to be strictly to the size. I put a photo here that is slightly smaller, and I put a photo here that is much smaller. Here, I used one photo instead of 3, and it's slightly taller than those photos. But here and here, I do use the same size photos. So when we start taking away, we can see how differently the page looks, but it works for our photos. Also note, when you have extra space, for instance, going to a smaller photo right here, I have the space now to do something else, such as a journal box. I could put a journal box right here to tell the story that goes with these photos. Or I could put a journal box right there. Or both. I can put an embellishment cluster in these locations. So you can substitute something different for any of these spots. Or you can go completely different. For instance, take away this portrait photo and put in a couple of landscape photos. Having the photo hang over the edges could be a design element. You could have a totally different configuration of photos here. Another 4x3 and a 4x4. Here is another configuration. It gets even more photos onto the layout. So you can make the project recipe layout work for your photos, and that is the key point. And this is another completely different design of photos on the same layout base. Okay, we're back. I have matted the photos because I decided I really liked it on white. Helps pop the photos off of the page bases. The next step now is to get out some tools and to make some embellishments. The first one I would like to make is a journaling spot. And I decided to go round instead of square or rectangular because it gives me that feeling of a porthole. So I decided the largest custom cutting circle, and I cut 3 circles. So I used the red blade for the outer circle, the green blade for the middle circle, and then I cut some white cardstock for the top circle, which will be where I will write. So the largest custom cutting circle, and I used all 3 blades, red, green, and blue. Next, I see the project recipe calls for half circles as decorative elements at the bottom of the right page. I've decided I want to use the rope chain border maker cartridge as my decorative element here. So I cut this with some of my scraps. I like to go to my scraps first and use them so they don't continue to accumulate. Next, I pulled out 2 of my favorite punches, the cruise ship border punch and the anchor shape punch. And I decided to make decorative elements that will go on actually both sides of the page. So first, I thought the ship and the anchor would look nice there. Searching through my scraps, I found this tag in tangerine cardstock made with the beveled tag punch, and I think I'm going to go place it right here as a decorative element, and I'm going to decorate it with another punch of the anchor and a little bit of the rope chain from the border maker cartridge. And finally, I really liked this cruise ship border punch and decided I think I would put it over here on the left side of the layout. And I'll trim this down. And that will be my decorations. I did not use the circles, number one, because that was not my style. It didn't appeal to me. But I did put in circular elements here instead. I'll be back when I have all of this adhered. Okay, here is our final layout with its new set of clothes. We removed a lot of the elements from this layout. We removed these sticker borders. We removed the circles. We used fewer photos here. And we added our own border element here. More elements here. We also did not round the corners here. But what we did was make a layout. And I'm very happy to put this layout in my album. I hope this gave you some inspiration on how you can modify a project recipe to work for you.